Just really.
Okay, thank you. We have apologies for absence from Councillor Scott.
Jeff Reid is he on this or not?
Yes.
Yeah. He gave his apologies for the previous meeting. He has a validity or whatever. Minutes of the previous meeting held in October. Anybody want to comment on them?
Moving through, I will check.
See no other indications. Disclosure of members' interests. Anybody? See no one. Right. Move on to item 4, report of the interim executive director of planning and local services. This is 4.1 petition against ongoing planning issues of pedestrian safety and access to local services at Arcot Manor, the Fairways, Cramlington. Judith, is this you?
Yes, it is. Thank you, Chair. Does anybody need a recap on what the petition was about? Does everybody?
Might help, yes.
Okay. So, we received a petition about the Arcot Manor Fairways estate in Cramlington during the summer months of last year, raising some concerns about mainly the infrastructure in connection with the site and lack of connectivity to local services. The main point was the connectivity from these residential areas to the town centre and neighbouring areas, and the residents felt that they had no safe point to cross a very busy road and no pedestrian or cycle access to local services. They only accessed onto the housing estate by Fisher Lane, where residents are concerned about that road and 50-mile-an-hour speed limit on it is, they feel, excessive. And they feel that's quite dangerous and poorly designed. So these were considered in the round, and that's what we brought to committee in October last year. And we put forward a series of measures that we would try and act on to see if we could get somewhere in resolving these issues. The problem we've got with this site is there is a Section 106 agreement attached to it, and the developers aren't, and under the terms of Section 106, aren't obliged to do certain things until so many houses have been developed. And then for a lot of those things, the number of houses isn't quite there yet. So they're not actually in breach of the Section 106 at all. So we've been discussing the issues raised in the petition with the developers, and we're really relying on their goodwill, if you like, in a lot of ways, and some support from them to try and bring some of these things forward to earlier than when it is stipulated in the Section 106 to see if that can help alleviate some of these concerns that have been raised. We're still in discussion with them. We have been speaking to them. Discussions have been fairly positive, albeit it's still a building site in a lot of ways, so they are limited as to what they can do in terms of safety aspects of, keeping people away from the building areas that are still being developed. So in some ways, some of those connection points where the residents would like to see temporary measures go, they've said they can't do that because it's just too much of a construction site at the moment. I think at the last committee, you might be able to just run through what we agreed to look at. So point 17 of your report just explains that officers of the planning department met with them and to discuss the matters raised. Now, they have come back with some, their answers more or less, not saying they're not going to do it. They put their case forward, which kind of, you have to sort of balance between what the complaint is and what their response to that has been. So in respect of the connectivity to the bus stops on Fisher Lane, and footpath is in place leading from the estate to the bus stop on the east side. The footpath continues to the south, leading up to the point where pedestrians need to cross to reach the set-down pedestrian island, which is located centrally between the north and south carriageways of Fisher Lane. So in respect of that, we've spoken to our own highways, who have also been looking at this and provided us with a series of road safety audits that were carried out throughout the design of this development, and since it's been actually in place. So several were carried out. The combined stage 1 and 2 road safety audit was undertaken for the scheme in May 2014. No designer's response provided to that report. In a stage 2 road safety audit was undertaken for the scheme by NCC in April 2015. An interim stage 2 road safety audit was undertaken for the scheme by NCC in October 2015 due to significant amendments to proposed bus stops. And a stage 3 road safety audit was undertaken for the scheme by NCC in July 2019. In reading the results of the stage 2 road safety audit, it looks as though this existing 50-mile-an-hour speed limit to the north of the site was extended south to include the roundabout and 400 metres to the south of it. The road safety audits and covering letters that they've attached with the email, this kind of goes into that in a little bit more detail, but it does say that having checked the collision data base, there does not appear to have been any collisions at the roundabout since the final road safety audit was undertaken in July 2019. The slight collision to the north was in January 2019 when the roundabout was probably still under construction and was probably outside the scope of roundabout works. So they've kind of, batted back what's been said and said that, as far as from a high-risk perspective, they don't consider that there are any issues of concern. Everything met with the road safety audit and has been assessed against those, and everything is met with the appropriate requirements. So the island that we're talking about, the crossing point there, allows pedestrians to wait and cross safely to the west side of Fisher Lane, where a footpath continues to the bus stop. It has acknowledged that this island sits quite close to the main roundabout. However, there was a point made that traffic naturally slows down as it approaches the roundabout. It was also proved as being a safe crossing point prior to construction and taken in context with the speed restrictions in place. And it's also acknowledged that speed is a concern in this area and the potential for more signage is under discussion, which is what we've done. So I've had discussions with our highways engineers about more signage, and they have said that they consider what is there is adequate, it's appropriate, and it didn't flag up as a safety concern in the road safety audits. However, they are happy to look at that again to see if there is any need for additional signage. Chevrons are being added, I've been told, which were an amendment to the original scheme. And that was again just to try and draw traffic more to stick within the road rather than going wide and I think overtaken from cars, what I've been told has happened in the past on the roundabout. And they will also look at to see, which we don't think is there at the moment, is a pedestrian crossing sign to say sort of, beware pedestrians crossing, to give that notice. It's also been suggested that if it was felt there was a need, but it's really just to emphasise that all the road safety audits that have been done and all of the work that they've done around all of this, they don't think there is a safety concern. They think it is designed accordingly, appropriately, and there is no safety concerns to be considered. But if they are willing to look at possibly putting lights where the crossing points are, to try and improve pedestrian safety, but obviously there is then the risk that the traffic will back up over the roundabout if it is stopped at those lights. So again, that would, but in high-risk terms, that would mean going back to the drawing board and doing more road safety audits, which they will do if they think it warrants it. But I think really the point is everything that's been raised, when we've gone back and discussed with highways, all of this has already been covered in the lead up to the construction of the roundabout, the area where the bus stops are, the pedestrian access to the bus stops, and it is in accordance with all highway regulations and is deemed to be safe.
Right. He did say that monies would be drawn down when sales reach a certain point. How far away is that?
I think we're still a way off. I'll just check the report. I think we're about 300, 400 houses in. And the first trigger point there is, for example, the sports contributions is due to be received by the council on completion of the 540th dwelling. That's this year, next year. And the final 147,400 is due on completion of the 860th dwelling. So we're not quite there. I think it's somewhere between 300 and 400. I'm pretty sure that it's being built at the moment.
So we can discount that for a while.
So, and that's the developer's argument. They're not, they are.
Yeah, no.
It's the problem has been probably way back, right when this scheme was entirely designed. And I think that's what Rob was saying at the last meeting. Lessons have been learned from that. then we need to get infrastructure in place before the house. So at a much earlier point than what has been agreed here. But if this is done, you know, there's nothing we can really do about that other than trying to continue to work with developers for them to maybe speed things up, or in the where it's still under construction, try and create some sort of gaps somewhere that would be safe to create temporary footpath and connection points for the residents to use. I mean, it's a big ask in terms of developers, because, you know, they think they are working under the terms of the 1/6, and they are. And so it is just, you know, ongoing talks with them to try and see where and if we can make any improvements along the way.
At least it's in there. At least there's something in there. I've got Ponteland Police Headquarters where an agreement for a pedestrian crossing. And it really should be a contribution from the developer. At least the developer is gonna give something, what, where and how.
Mhm.
Right, I'll open up this to the
Still more reports in there, Chair. Still more reports in there. You're still got more of your reports presenting.
Only the bit about the footpath link
Yeah.
that we talked
All
about,
right,
yes.
great, do that.
So that was between, sort of the top, the north end of the estate, in a link. What we established was we could probably put some sort of footpath link towards where the Zero Garden Centre is, to link across that way. And so there was a bit of, you know, who owns that, and it's batted around a little bit, but it actually comes down to the fact that we own it, NCC owns this particular strip of land. So what we've said is that we can design a footpath, and we will look to get moving with this footpath. If members are happy to agree to that, then we'll get the ball rolling with it. It was just to really highlight that we have found a connection point that we can use them when all comes to all. This land is actually still owned by us, and so, you know, we can move on with that without any further delay or hesitation if members are agreeable to that.
Well, is it within the power of this committee to say that? Because again, it's our land, but that doesn't mean to say we make the decision. I don't think. I think we would recommend, because someone will have to pay for it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking to Rob and Estates, Mike Robbins at the moment about. Yes, we can design it, and I'm just trying to, I haven't had a firm answer on that yet, but I have asked the question is, who do I say will pay for that? So I do need to get to the bottom of that, but it looks a little bit more promising in that respect, of that footpath.
Right, I'll open it up, councillor Lux and councillor Swinburne.
Yeah, thank you. I'm the ward member for this area. I was going to ask, my view is this should happen ASAP. Frankly, should be out there already, as far as I'm concerned. But if this is going to be built, because it sounds like if, from what you said there, from my point of view, it should be, it should, rather than if. Not it should, but it will, rather than if. When will it be built? So how quickly can we get out of this meeting and get it rubber stamps that it goes ahead? What materials is it going to be? Is it going to be any lighting? Will we be able to go bikes up there, prams up there, all that kind of stuff? And if it's going to get done, when does it start? When does it finish? That's essentially that. And from my point of view, I mean, if it needs to be signed off or paid for or whatever, can we have that just done ASAP? Because we own it, we can do this, we ought to do it. in my opinion.
Right, there's a lot of questions there that you might not be able to answer. Do you want to
Yeah,
have a stab at some?
Chairman, I think obviously I'm speaking to Rob Murphy, and he is keen just to get on with it. Mike Robbins from Estates is happy for it to go ahead, so it's just a case now, you know, members are happy with that. I'll just start getting the ball rolling straight away, and I'll ask all the students to who exactly is going to design it. It'll be somebody in our Harry's design team. Who exactly, I don't know, but I can speak to David Locke about that.
I mean, does that design take very long? Because I only thought,
So-
to be honest, I thought it was being designed already. I thought
Yeah,
this
I mean,
questions was doing.
it's going to be more of a temporary
Yeah.
footpath. It's not going to be, you know, a finished, you know, sort of fully robust finished article, but it will be enough for people to, it'll be robust enough for people to use in the interim. So I'll find all of that out. In terms of the materials, I'll have to speak to whoever's going to design it to find that out, but I'll get all of that information.
Can I have
together.
that as a ward councillor ASAP?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just copy you into the emails that I've done,
Thank you.
whatever's agreed today, and, you know, to get started with.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Swinburne.
Thank you, Chair. So a couple of things. You mentioned there about the fact that, you know, this is going back a number of years. It's not the only one that we're struggling with. I'm going to say even in Cramlington, but bigger than that, that we've got legacy issues with, and it's difficult with that agreement. The footpath, is this one of these areas which has been stopped up by the builders and been prevented from being used to this point?
In all honesty, I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that, but we've spoken to, when we first thought we've spoken to Persimmon and we've spoken to Belby, and at the beginning, we weren't entirely sure whose land it was. They both said that it would be doable and they wouldn't have a problem with it. It would just be a case of speaking to their right people to get that going. But as I say, it turns out it's MCC owned. So I think I'm not certain, but I don't know, Councillor Buck might know if it's just a bit of nothing land at the moment. Not
There-
where the footpath is going.
It goes to the end of Look Avenue, and there is a kind of path that starts there,
Yeah,
and it goes to a field.
So-
But there are some Harris fences around there, but I think your red line on there at the moment is just fields, I think.
yeah, I thought.
I know there was a concern raised last time that for health and safety reasons, builders have put some fencing up. And I was just going to say, if that encroaches on any of our land, we need to make sure that's cleared so that we know what we're, I'm going to say, playing with. And at least if residents then decided that while we're arranging to put something down, you know, hopefully as quickly as possible, if they wanted to, for want of a better term, walk across the field or whatever is there, they've got the opportunity to do that. Or, you know, if there is any fences blocking it, then that needs to be removed.
Okay.
The other query was with regards the dual carriageway. I understand, as any councillor here will probably agree to, all of the work that Highways goes into their studies and the work that they do there. And then it comes down to the practicality of using these roads. And I use this road, and I travel at 50 mile an hour and get other road users who rocket past me on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So that doesn't come up on studies, that comes into the day in, day out regular usage. And that doesn't matter whether it's 50 mile an hour, 70 mile an hour or 30 mile an hour, you get day in, day out, the regular people that fly past. And it doesn't matter what speed limit you put on there.
Yeah.
So, signage, okay, if you can increase it, and our highways are, I wouldn't say quite mean when it comes to signage, and they're very strict in what they will and won't put up there. But my question is, what more can be done to help with speed management on that road? Are there anything more? I'll be honest now, highways always say, oh, well, it's an enforcement issue. What I want to know, and it applies here, it applies to lots more roads as well. What more can we do to help manage the speed on there so that we don't get those who would prefer to ignore speed limits and put others at risk? Because they do go flying down there, and they actually come off the top roundabout. Sorry, you know, just past the zoo.
Yeah.
They come in the right-hand lane and turn left when they shouldn't be, and they overtake you, and they come flying down there, and that's when they hit the roundabout, ignore everything and go straight on. So what can the council do from a highways perspective to help mitigate and help people to keep at the required speed limit? So that's a question. What do we?
I'll go with Karen. Do you want to answer that? I mean, it's a local member
Yeah,
thing
right.
from town council. That's how we do it, Ponteland.
Yeah,
Over
I mean,
14
I
cameras
can't answer
now.
that right now. I will need to speak to people in highways, and I mean, it's a difficult one because, as I said, the signage that is in place is in accordance with these road safety audits, and that's all they need to do to make it safe. Anything over and above would be, you know, just an added extra, really. It's people not driving the way they should. They're driving out with the law, you know, and you get that everywhere. It's difficult to manage that, because it's just always going to happen. But I mean, I'll speak to.
I think that's a further down the line. We made a point of Ponteland to do cameras. Cameron,
Thank you. So as far as the footpath concerned, yeah, let's get on with that as quick as we can. So with regards to the road safety and the crossing and things, I know it doesn't fit within the audit of point A and point B, but it's that lived experience of seeing what actually happens on that road day in, day out. And we might say that lights may not be suitable. If you look at Moor Farm Roundabout, you literally have traffic lights and a crossing across one of the busiest roads in our area. And it's not actually causing that much of an issue. And this road we're talking about isn't as busy, but actually it could be a solution. So instead of just dismissing it, and why can't we just reduce the speed limit? And again, you come down to the end of the A189 and the actual speed limit decreases at the end down to 40 miles an hour, and people follow that. So instead of just saying it doesn't fall within point A and point B of the formula that was created, actually, why can't we just get on and do it? And is there going to be any hardship of losing another 10 miles an hour and actually backing up with enforcement and being a little bit more proactive? Because I get that there's formulas to be followed and it makes it a lot easier, but then it's the reality of what this road's like in comparison to another road. I just think we're making things a lot more harder than what they need to be when we can almost get on with this quite quickly instead of having another 8 meetings about it down the line.
No, that's fine. Something else I can raise.
Mm.
It's all I can do with
Yeah.
these things back and see where they but I'll put them all in the same email.
I mean,
Everybody that needs to.
That was basically my LTP submission. If you remember, if you was at that meeting,
Yeah.
I raised it. It was next door, weren't we? Actually, I raised it next door. We get all these positions. We've done a road audit in 2014 and in 15 and 13. Well, there wasn't even a state there that time. There wasn't a roundabout there. I mean, how can we know? Well, you know, what are they even worth the paper they're written on when you've got an audit from that length of time? When the road is fully built, you're going to have even more different road actions because of, you know, I might whip up there to go and get to my house at Beacon Hill and not go past Northumberlandia and up that, you know, as if I was to go to Ashington or Morgan. You know, there's going to be more movements, more changes, and it needs looking at. We said about highways there. Well, there was a lot of ifs and maybes with highways there, and I would like some more surety and certainty. And I think that they should be in touch with me, given that this is my submission to the LTP quite clearly and quite vociferously, that there is an update on that with what they are actually going to do, rather than we might put a sign up, we might put traffic lights, we might do this, we might do the other. There needs to be, we are doing this, and the time frame will be whatever it is. Or we can't do it because of this reason, or we can do it because of that reason.
And I've got to say, I'm growing very tired of receiving decisions and reports with all of the rules behind why our requests are not being fulfilled, with all the justification as to why something's not going to be done. And as local members who are representing our local people in the local areas, we know what needs to be done. And when we're asking for stuff to be done, it's because we need stuff to be done. What we don't need is our officers spending lots of time doing lots of work and lots of reports to say this is why we're not doing it. We're the ones who know what needs to be done. Our people are asking us to get stuff done, and we're saying, can you do this? And we're spending time, money and resources on staff, then coming back and saying, this is why we're not doing it. And we know it needs to be done. And so when we say, you know, get something done, we need someone to get something done. And I would love a more of a can-do attitude. So this is when we're saying to highways, can you do this? And what we don't want to say, well, you know, legislation just says this, legislation just says that. It's just like, can you just do it? Can you just get it done? Because there's an issue.
Do you have cameras? Do you have any cameras in Crowley?
Just a question.
Speed
I have.
cameras?
Well,
No.
we have them in, sorry to say, Ponty, and I've seen them elsewhere, where your speed comes up. I know it's a challenge to some, but it generally does work where people, you know, you were doing 35 miles an hour.
With speed indicators.
Yeah, we have some of them. And I put into my submission, I wanted them on that state. It got misunderstood that I meant that you thought it was the road in. Fisher Lane is where they're needed. And I made that to officers, the town council. Those flashing signs are temporary. They're meant to be there 3 months, I believe.
I think it was 6 months.
6 months and then they moved along. So it's about time there was one in Fisher Lane from our town council.
Well, it's something I think you need to tackle, because we did it at Ponteland, we would spend a fortune moving them around. I said, stop, leave them there. Because they were trying to just move them around. The cost of that was the same as a camera. So we've got permanent cameras. Yes, Les.
Can I go back to the access to the footpath from the building site, from the new building of the estate? Is the access in the future, will it be available for the residents to gain access to it in a simple way? It won't be like behind houses, it won't be blocked off in a back lane or anything like that. Is the access, when the site is finished, will it be a good means of accessing the rest of the village? And the other thing is, if that is the case, if it is a good access, then why can't the builders just acknowledge that they should link it up to the established estate and work around it? It is possible to fence it off and then basically undo the fencing when they want to get through and so on. They could, if they wanted to, they could actually do it. I get the impression, because of finances and that, they're not really interested in bringing this into the fore. They're more interested in building the houses and getting the site finished. That I understand, but there needs to be a move forward here by the builders to actually give the residents access to the rest of Cramlington. And can I mention about the road itself, the road on the outside of the estate, which is 50 miles an hour. On the northbound, there is a speed camera at the junction where there is a pub called the Snowy Owl, and it is a major road towards Ponteland and northbound as well on the A1. There is a speed camera there, and people do slow down. Can I suggest to highways that they do something a bit different on north and southbound? Why don't they do average speed system? And that way we can mitigate on people speeding at high levels. I've witnessed myself when I've travelled on this road a few times of people doing 70, and it's not built for that. It's obviously, we've got speed cameras on the northbound because of a junction. There is a junction on the southbound, which is quite dangerous as well. But, you know, we could do average speed cameras on both sides.
Can I interject that
That's not us, it's police.
on the average speed cameras? I've seen them, that they've taken them out now for some, whatever reason.
But that's not highways, those police, isn't it? It's not. Well, highways department.
Highways are looking in.
Yeah. Can I just follow on from that? Maybe our highways team should take a leaf out of North Tyneside, what they do on the road from Annesford towards, well, it goes past Killenworth. They built a housing estate on the left-hand side as you're going towards the 4-lane ends. And they built a roundabout there, just like we have done here. And they put traffic lights on the roundabout. And it works. It actually works. It stops people speeding. It creates a method of people wanting to cross the road for whatever reason. They have different reasons there. Obviously, they're not accessing a bus stop, but people do cross the road in safety. And that's what we're talking about here, safety. So maybe our highways team should have a go down, have a look to see what they've done on that estate and take that example and do similar here.
Right, do you want to come back to it?
Okay, first point about access. Obviously, once the estates are finished, the access points will be much better than what they are at the moment, and they will be greatly improved and they'll be finished properly. But obviously that is still a way down the line. It's a big estate and it's quite a long build out process, but as it goes on, things will start to improve. And in terms of the builders, just putting different access points in, it's just really where they can safely do that rather than sort of moving things to one side and putting a path in. They do have to have the areas that are still building do have to be safe and kept shut to the general public while it's still a construction site. So it's not really as straightforward as just saying, well, we could do with a path there, let's do it. If that's going to cause safety problems to the general public, then we can't. So it's all got to factor around where is safe to put these footpaths. And at the moment, that's what we've come up with, the one with Lincoln next to the US site, which is, that's what we're going to try and move forward with at the moment. And the traffic lights that you're referring to, I don't know what was considered at the outset, whether traffic lights were considered, and if there was some reason it was a roundabout as opposed to traffic lights, that would have all come out within the whole design of the road, the scheme, everything. I don't know why one was chosen over the other. But just the point is that although obviously what we're hearing is it isn't working the way it should, through the road safety audit, the roundabout works. And so now it really comes down to identifying what isn't working and seeing what we can do, if anything, to try and improve that, because I don't think, well, a roundabout wouldn't come out and be replaced with traffic lights. I mean, I'm not a highways expert on that, but I'm pretty certain that wouldn't happen. So especially when you've got something that does actually work in terms of highways legislation and models and design. So it would be a case of just trying and listening to what's going wrong in that area and trying to do something to put that right.
Right, councillor Close again.
Just on the point of the fencing, it's not a case of if the fencing was there, you could walk across it. Certainly not until about June. It's absolutely caked in mud. You couldn't walk across it. If there was just a field there at the moment, you'd just be up to there in the mud. So it's not just a case of the fencing being in the way. That's why you need the proper material, with someone in a wheelchair or pram or whatever to get past there, and for anyone walking for that matter.
Right. I want to, and first of all, traffic light would be, as everybody says, desirable, but I'm led to believe that between 30 and 90k to put one in.
It's not that thing.
I was being conservative. So again, that money would need to be found, and it probably would have to wait for the developer contribution. So I'm going to suggest that we keep this on the agenda. Now, the next one is on the 27th of April. Is it April? Sometime in April. It might like a project report on any progress.
I don't think it's well done by
Will we be able to invite somebody from highways along to be able to
Yeah.
answer some of them questions about why and what
Yeah,
for?
they've been invited to both. They haven't.
Because I just feel we can keep on bringing it back and bringing it back, and this estate's actually going to be built by the time we get
Well,
around to it.
I know, it's back to Mark Swinburne where we go around in circles and we wait for people.
Mhm.
Am I
So,
allowed to talk at this meeting?
I'll take advice.
Obviously, the lead petitioner is invited to speak when the petition is presented at the first meeting. The protocol is silent, so next question.
Go on, I'll give you, and if I think yes, three, I'll say no.
No, that's fine. Okay, so just a couple of points really. As Councillor Flux has said, the highways audit was carried out in July 2019. A lot has changed since then, and that there's a state there now. In terms of the highways audit, saying there's adequate signage, there's none. There's no signage at all, so I don't know what they're on about there. The speed recorder, everywhere in Crampton's got one, but we haven't, and I don't understand that. Our speed limit 50 miles an hour. You go around the corner between Azure and Beacon Lane, that stretch of road, 40 miles an hour. You don't have to go across the road. There's actually somewhere for you to go under the road, so pedestrians are safe that way. So why we're still 50, they're 40, and hardly anyone crosses it anyway is beyond me. Talking about the cost of everything, we pay council tax, and yes, we get our normal services, and I accept that, but we don't get anything from Cramlington Town Council in terms of a service other than having our bins emptied, which comes to probably at the minute about 45, 50 grand a year to have 2 bins emptied, sporadically at no given time, often.
It's the county council that does the bidding.
All right, okay, that's what I don't know what I get from the town council then, because we get nothing, absolutely
Well-
nothing. So when we talk about cost, you know, you're saying it's gonna cost a certain amount for traffic lights. What cost do you put on someone's life? If someone's gonna get knocked over there,
Right,
he's gonna be.
yeah, I take your point. We will do our best to, and people, lots of people write in, how much is it, whatever. I can't answer that, and I don't think anybody can. What we will try to do is try to get this nudged on. We will investigate the traffic lights, and if the developer is prepared to fund, and what there's discussion going on to draw down, to see if we can do that. That is ongoing, which is why I want to keep this on the agenda, so that we can keep an eye on it, because so we can say in X months or whatever time, we've done that, we've said what we're gonna do on the tin. You can walk around happily, safely, as can everybody else. Unfortunately, we're stuck in processes.
Okay, I'm in contact with Glenn Robson, who's a traffic sergeant for traffic safety in our area as well. So I'm gonna get data from him. Is there a way I can submit that information to the committee or to anybody?
Well,
in terms of
yeah,
being
I
able
mean, you can submit it to Nicola Turnbull,
to-
and
Okay,
we issue with it, if it's valid, we'll put it in the, but I mean, this data is confusing, because, you know, we put things across, you see the lines across the road, and the objector or the person that's saying it's in the wrong place, the wrong time of year, there's always roadworks that haven't got the right, whatever. We have to rely on local members to verify that things are, as it is a problem. There is obviously a problem here that maybe they should have gone to the developer at the very, very start. And I hear loudly that we're learning lessons on some of this, because, you know, with a crossing, that's £100,000, that's a lot of money. You know, and I take your point, but we have to try and find that, and that's what we're going to try and do in this committee, try and resolve this problem. Okay,
how long is it gonna take?
I cannot tell you that, but we'll try, and that's why I'm keeping it on the agenda, to make sure that it does come to a resolution. Look, I mean, if there's a housing slump,
Well, this is.
you know, this is where we
They've
get
got
in
a
trouble.
serious problem, and it is gonna happen. Developers have stopped buying up land, as you probably might all be aware now. But they have stopped buying land up now, so where there's that development potential, it's gone. They're not doing it anymore.
That happens,
Um,
but what we've got to do is, I mean, the site in Berwick got 1,000 houses waiting to be built. It's been like that for 20 years. And it distorts the figures that we have. That's just one item. I'm not going to stray. We are looking into this problem. I'm telling you, it's on the agenda. It's on the agenda. If it's not on the agenda, I want to know why. Councillor Flips.
It's not only at this meeting, there's lots of work going on in the background. And there's a lot of unseen work going on in the background. And people suggesting things aren't happening. Things are happening all the time. Judith's probably sick of the amount of emails I've sent you on this subject. That it's continually going on all of the time. And I don't really want to wait till April. I think we should really have our path in place well before April, in my view.
Well, that's why we're here, to try and get
You know, we've got
this
it,
job done.
we've got a drawing, the red line, so people have obviously thought about it. We've more or less said, does this committee agree with it? I think it's clear this committee agrees. They want a path here. And now
I'll just
gears going,
gear.
motion to get it done.
Are we happy that we push this forward and get it done?
Yeah.
Does everybody agree? Right, there's your answer. It's on for the next meeting, and I understand the frustration.
Yeah.
You want it tomorrow?
Well, it is, and it's not, it's 1,000 residents. It's not just a handful of people.
I understand.
And that's what,
But what I'm saying is, we've been making mistakes of getting the wrong things out of developers rather than the basics on the ground.
we just
If
need
we
to-
start at the start and say, before you build a house, you've got to have X, Y, and Z in, is probably the way it should be done. But obviously the housing market's changing as we speak, so. But we'll keep it on the agenda until it's resolved. I want it resolved. I don't want to bring you back in.
No, I don't want to come back here.
Sometimes we all feel later. Right.
Thank you.
Nothing more on this. Right, all I can do now is next meeting, 27th of April at 2 p.m.
Urgent business, I have none. Thank you for your attendance.